For years, social media has completely changed the way people interact with each other. A simple follow, a like, or even a quick comment can spark a conversation, create a friendship, or in some cases, start a whole lot of drama. That's why relationship boundaries online have become one of the biggest debates of the modern era. What one person sees as harmless interaction, another person might see as disrespect. And let's be honest, most people probably don't think much about who follows who. If a celebrity follows somebody, the assumption is usually that they're interested in their content, their work, or maybe they just happen to come across their page. It's social media. People follow people every day, but not everyone sees it that way. For some people, especially when relationships are involved, intentions matter more than actions. They believe there is always a reason behind the follow button. Maybe it's curiosity, maybe it's attraction, maybe it's something else entirely. Whatever the reason may be, they don't buy the idea that everyone is simply scrolling through their feed looking for content. That's exactly where this conversation started heading. What sounded like a harmless hypothetical quickly turned into a real debate when the topic shifted to another man following your girl online. At first, it seemed like one of those everyday discussions that people have all the time. But the more the scenario was explored, the clearer it became that Katt Williams wasn't looking at this situation the same way many people would. While some people might shrug their shoulders and move on, Katt appeared to have a completely different perspective. And before long, it became obvious that this wasn't just some random topic being discussed for entertainment. There was a genuine opinion behind it. That's when Shannon Sharpe presented the situation directly, setting the stage for a back and forth that would reveal exactly how Katt feels when another man starts paying attention to someone he's involved with.
Do you have a problem? You're dating someone, obviously they're on social media, and then somebody famous follows them.
I don't like that shit.
You don't like that?
I mean, I don't got a problem with it. But
you follow? You
don't worry about what I do. There ain't nobody been there. That's me. That's me.
You famous too.
Yeah, good.
And you following somebody, girl, I guarantee you.
Cool.
But you don't want nobody to follow your girl.
Leave my girl alone. What she did to you? Leave her alone. Don't talk to her. Leave her alone. What?
People just follow people.
I don't care. Nah, I don't care. I don't just follow people.
No,
me personally.
Some people, like, okay, you into fitness.
Yeah.
Okay, somebody has a nice body. Okay, you follow them because you like to exercise, or somebody in whatever the case may be. Track and field athlete, okay. Everybody that follows somebody, Kev, ain't trying to get down.
Right away, you can hear the difference in how both men are approaching the conversation. Shannon is trying to look at the situation from a broader perspective. His argument is simple. Not every follow automatically means somebody is trying to start something. Sometimes people follow athletes, entertainers, fitness influencers, or public figures simply because they're interested in what they post. But Katt doesn't seem fully convinced. Even before the conversation reaches its most viral moment, there's already a noticeable level of skepticism in his responses. He's listening, but at the same time, he doesn't sound like someone who's buying the explanation being offered. The more examples Shannon gives, the more it feels like Katt is waiting for the opportunity to explain why he sees things differently. And as viewers are about to find out, once he finally does, he doesn't hold back at all. Up until this point, the conversation was still operating in the world of hypotheticals. Shannon was making the argument that social media follows aren't always that serious, while Katt seemed unconvinced but hadn't fully explained why. Then, Shannon decided to flip the situation around. Instead of talking about random people online, he pushed the conversation into a much more personal direction. What if the person doing the following wasn't just anybody? What if it was a famous man following your girl? And what if that famous man claimed he was simply following her with no hidden agenda whatsoever? That's when things started getting interesting. Because rather than considering the possibility that the follow could be innocent, Katt immediately reacted as if the answer was already obvious. There wasn't much hesitation. There wasn't a long pause to think it over. In his mind, the explanation didn't add up. And that's what made this moment stand out. You could almost hear the confidence in his voice as he dismissed the idea that somebody would go out of their way to follow a woman for no reason at all. While Shannon continued trying to leave room for different possibilities, Katt appeared to see the situation in much simpler terms. To him, actions reveal intentions, and when he finally explained exactly what he believed was happening behind the scenes, it instantly became one of the most talked about moments of the entire conversation.
So you tried to get down with everybody? You was trying to get down with everybody?
Some women I follow, I just follow off the...
Okay.
Yeah.
What if old boy just follow your girl just to
I don't believe that. In the situation you talking about, I'm not gonna say what it was, but I did that shit right now. I don't believe that shit. Ain't no way in here. That nigga was not following just to follow it. That nigga was following to fuck.
He tried to crack her.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my goodness.
This right here is the moment that will probably divide viewers straight down the middle. Because Katt didn't just disagree with Shannon's perspective, he completely rejected it. His argument is based on something a lot of people believe but don't always say out loud. According to Katt, people rarely make moves without a reason. In his mind, a follow isn't just a follow, it's an action. And actions usually come from interest. Now, whether people agree with that or not is a different conversation entirely. There are going to be plenty of viewers who hear what Katt said and immediately nod their heads in agreement. They'll argue that social media has become one of the most common ways people initiate contact, test boundaries, or show interest in someone. From that perspective, Katt's reaction isn't insecurity at all. It's simply recognizing what he believes are obvious intentions. But then there's the other side. Critics will probably say Katt is reading far too much into something that could be completely harmless. They'll argue that public figures follow thousands of people. Athletes, comedians, musicians, influencers, entrepreneurs, the list goes on. Not every click of a follow button comes with some secret motive attached to it. And that's exactly why this conversation became so interesting. It wasn't really about social media anymore. It became a debate about trust. It became a debate about perception. And most importantly, it became a debate about whether people should judge actions based on what happened or based on what they believe the intention was from the beginning. For Katt Williams, the answer seemed pretty clear. He wasn't focused on appearances. He was focused on what he believed was really going on underneath the surface. And as viewers would soon learn, this wasn't just a theory for him. It was something he had personally experienced. And then Katt revealed something that changed the entire tone of the conversation. Up until now, it was easy to assume he was simply sharing an opinion or talking about a hypothetical situation. But as Shannon kept asking questions, Katt made it clear that this wasn't just a random scenario he had imagined. He had actually experienced something similar himself. That's when the discussion stopped being about social media in general and became personal. Because instead of pretending he was unbothered or acting like it didn't matter, Katt openly admitted that he had a real issue with it. In a world where a lot of people try to hide their feelings to avoid looking insecure, Katt went in the opposite direction. He didn't sugarcoat anything. He didn't try to sound politically correct. He simply said exactly how he felt. And judging by the reaction online, that honesty is exactly what caught people's attention.
So what happened next? Did you tell her to block him?
Nah, I kept it P.
You ain't let her know that it bothered you that he was following her?
Nah, Of course I did. I got a problem. Said it immediately. I said, oh, hell no, this some bullshit. And she gonna try to tell me with a smile, oh my, I don't give a fuck if a goddamn who this is.
Come on, man.
What?
So what if somebody else girl might feel that same way about you? Yeah. Oh, you following this in?
One thing nobody can accuse Katt Williams of in this moment is being fake. Whether people agree with him or not, he wasn't trying to pretend he was cool with something that genuinely bothered him. The second he was asked about it, he admitted it immediately. No games, no hiding behind vague answers, no acting unaffected. And that's where the conversation started touching on a much bigger debate that exists in modern relationships. Today, a lot of people believe that confidence means never being bothered by anything. The expectation is that you should trust your partner completely and ignore everything else. But there are also plenty of people who come from a more old school way of thinking. They believe boundaries matter, respect matters, and if something feels off, there's nothing wrong with saying it. Katt clearly falls closer to that side of the argument. What's interesting is that even viewers who didn't fully agree with his position still respected the fact that he was honest about it. He wasn't trying to win points. He wasn't trying to sound perfect. He was simply telling the truth about how he felt in that situation. And in today's world, where so many people carefully filter every opinion before saying it out loud, that kind of blunt honesty tends to resonate with a lot of people. At this point, Shannon Sharpe wasn't about to let Katt off the hook that easily. Because while Katt was making it clear that he had a problem with the situation, Shannon seemed more interested in figuring out where that feeling was actually coming from. Was Katt protecting his relationship, or was he simply being a little too territorial? And that's where the conversation started getting interesting again. Because depending on who's watching, Katt's reaction can be interpreted in two completely different ways. Some people will hear him and think he's setting reasonable boundaries. Others will hear the exact same thing and say he's overreacting to something that isn't a big deal at all. Shannon appeared to recognize that tension immediately, so instead of changing the subject, he pushed a little harder. And when he asked Katt the question that a lot of viewers were probably thinking themselves, Katt's answer came without hesitation.
I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna tell you the same thing that nigga probably said about me. Who cares?
Come on, Cam.
What?
You that petty?
Very.
Man, you up there petty rocks for them.
And just like that, the audience was split. On one side, you have Team Katt. These are the people who believe he's simply saying what many men are already thinking. They argue that honesty is better than pretending not to care, and they'd rather somebody admit their feelings than hide behind a fake image of confidence. Then you have Team Shannon. This group believes Katt might be taking the situation a little too seriously. To them, social media follows don't automatically mean anything, and reacting this strongly could create problems where none actually exist. What's funny is that both sides probably think they're being completely reasonable, and that's why moments like this take off online. Everyone watches the same clip, but they walk away with completely different conclusions. So here's the question: was Katt being honest, or was he being petty? Let me know which side you're on, because this conversation only gets deeper from here. Just when viewers thought this conversation was going to stay focused on social media, relationships, and jealousy, it suddenly took a completely different direction. What started as a debate over following someone's girlfriend online quickly evolved into something much more personal. Instead of continuing to argue about boundaries and trust, the discussion shifted towards self-reflection, emotional growth, and the ways people deal with their own flaws. And honestly, this is where the interview became a lot more interesting, because beneath all the jokes, strong opinions, and back and forth exchanges, both men started touching on something that affects almost everyone at some point in life: understanding yourself. When the topic of therapy came up, the energy in the room changed. The conversation slowed down, the laughter faded, and for the first time during the interview, viewers got a chance to hear Shannon Sharpe speak openly about experiences that had forced him to take a hard look at himself.
I can't believe you, bro. Therapy. You tried therapy?
Nah. Oh, no, I ain't tried it. I need to, though. A lot going on. You go to therapy?
I have.
You have?
Yeah.
You ain't lie, how you felt about it?
You got to be honest and be receptive. A lot of times, we be combative. And then when you, I think the thing is that when I was actually there talking to her, I've had therapy about 3 times. Every time it's been, I've never had a male therapist.
I didn't either.
And every time that I've talked to him at the time, and it's like, but then when I'm away from it and I'm sitting alone in my home, I'm in my car, and I think about what they've said, I was like, damn. Am I that transparent? Can they see through me? Can they see? And I remember the first therapist I went to, I remember she used to tell me all the time, she was like, Shannon, are you arguing for right, or are you arguing to be right? And I want to be right. I'm right.
Yeah.
She said, if you're arguing for right, you can work it out. She said, but if you're arguing to be right and you feel that you need to be right, it's not going to work. She said, Shannon, right now, as I talk to you, and I've talked to her one time, you guys are communicating in two different languages. She's speaking Spanish, you're speaking Mandarin Chinese. Either she learns your language or you learn hers, or it's never gonna work.
This might have been one of the most underrated moments of the entire conversation, because while the earlier discussion was entertaining, this part revealed something far more meaningful. Shannon wasn't talking about other people anymore. He was talking about himself. What stood out most was the level of self-awareness he displayed. Instead of pretending to have everything figured out, he openly admitted that therapy forced him to confront habits, behaviors, and ways of thinking that he had carried with him for years. That's not always easy to do. A lot of people are comfortable pointing out everyone else's flaws. Far fewer are willing to examine their own. What made this moment powerful was Shannon's honesty about the process. He explained how some of the lessons didn't fully hit him until he was alone afterward, replaying those conversations in his head. That's something many viewers could probably relate to. And while the interview started with Katt Williams discussing trust and relationships, Shannon's comments introduced another important idea. Sometimes the biggest challenges aren't the people around us. Sometimes they're the habits, beliefs, and patterns we've developed over the course of our own lives. It was a surprisingly vulnerable moment, and it added a level of depth that nobody expected when the conversation first began. As the conversation continued, it became clear that there was something much bigger driving Katt Williams than relationship concerns or social media drama. In fact, the deeper Shannon dug into Katt's mindset, the more obvious it became that his focus is locked onto something else entirely: the pursuit of success. For a lot of people, success is a goal. It's something they work toward when they have time. But for others, it becomes an obsession. It becomes the thing they think about when they wake up and the last thing on their mind before they go to sleep. And judging by what Katt was about to reveal, he falls into that second category. When Shannon asked him what was really going on in his life and what he felt he still needed to work through, Katt's answer wasn't about fame, money, or relationships. Instead, he started talking about the chase itself.
I don't know, when you chasing something, I think you get locked in on the chase of it. I think I talk to people all the time, not like a therapist, nothing, no shit like that, but it's like, I talk to people and it's just like when you so locked in on what you try to do and what you try to become, sometimes you miss
You do.
the journey of what's happening.
Yes.
You feel what I'm saying? Maybe talking to somebody about that. Cause it's like also like, but I've also, you work so hard at something, dog. You just don't wanna, you know what I'm saying? Like,
What Katt described is something that many highly successful people have talked about over the years. Once you're locked in on a goal, it becomes incredibly difficult to slow down. Every achievement creates another target. Every milestone creates another challenge. And before you know it, you're so focused on where you're going that you barely stop to appreciate where you are. That's the trade-off that often comes with ambition. The same mindset that helps someone reach extraordinary levels of success can also make balance feel almost impossible. While other people are relaxing, celebrating, or taking time off, they're already thinking about the next move. And that's exactly what Katt seemed to be describing here. It's not that he doesn't appreciate the journey. It's that the mission is always calling him forward. The sacrifice, the long hours, the relentless focus, all of it becomes part of the process. And for people wired that way, turning it off isn't nearly as easy as it sounds. And this is where everything starts connecting back to the conversation that started the interview in the first place. Because when you listen carefully to what Katt is saying here, it becomes easier to understand why he reacted so strongly earlier. The discussion was never really just about a social media follow, at least not from his perspective. What Katt is describing is a lifestyle built around commitment, sacrifice, and relentless focus. When someone spends years chasing a dream, working while everyone else is sleeping, and dedicating nearly every waking hour to a goal, they naturally become protective of the things that matter most to them. That's why finding the right partner becomes so important. According to both Katt and Shannon, success often demands sacrifices that many people don't fully understand until they're actually living through them. Long nights, Constant travel, missed events, endless pressure. Not everyone can handle being connected to someone operating at that level of intensity. And maybe that's why Katt views certain situations differently than other people do. When you've invested so much into building a life and maintaining meaningful relationships, you're probably going to be more sensitive to anything that feels like a potential threat to that stability. Whether viewers agree with his reaction or not, it's becoming clearer that his mindset is rooted in protection, not just jealousy. By this point, the conversation had traveled a long way from where it started. What began as a debate about social media boundaries had evolved into a discussion about personal growth, sacrifice, ambition, and the challenges that come with pursuing greatness. But the most revealing moment was still ahead, because while Shannon had already opened up about therapy and self-reflection, Katt was about to share something much more personal. This wasn't about relationships. This wasn't about social media, and it wasn't about what other people were doing. Instead, Katt began reflecting on a period in his life when he was searching for direction, trying to figure out who he was and what he was supposed to do. It was a story about faith, purpose, persistence, and the journey that eventually transformed him into the person audiences know today. And for many viewers, it ended up being the most powerful moment of the entire interview. And just like that, the entire conversation came full circle. What started as a debate about another man following your girl on social media ended up revealing something much deeper about Katt Williams himself. Because underneath the strong opinions, the blunt honesty, and the viral sound bites is someone who has spent years chasing a purpose he genuinely believes was meant for him. When Katt talked about being lost, praying for direction, and eventually finding stand-up comedy, it helped explain a lot about the way he approaches life today. The same intensity that drives him to protect his relationships is the same intensity that pushed his dreams without taking shortcuts. The same focus that makes him question people's intentions is the same focus that kept him working when most people would have quit. Whether viewers agree with every opinion he shared during this interview isn't really the point. The bigger takeaway is understanding where those opinions come from. Throughout this conversation, Katt showed viewers different sides of himself: humorous, stubborn, competitive, reflective, and surprisingly vulnerable. And by the end, what seemed like a simple discussion about social media had transformed into a conversation about ambition, sacrifice, faith, trust, and purpose. That's what made this interview much bigger than the headline that first got everyone's attention. So after hearing everything Katt Williams had to say, the question remains: was he overreacting, or was he simply being honest about something that many people secretly think? Depending on who you ask, the answer is probably going to be different. Some viewers will argue that a social media follow isn't serious enough to justify that kind of reaction. They'll say people are reading too much into online interactions and creating problems that don't need to exist. Others will look at the situation completely differently. They'll argue that intentions matter, boundaries matter, and that Katt was simply refusing to ignore something that didn't sit right with him. And maybe that's exactly why this conversation resonated with so many people. It wasn't just about social media. It was about trust. It was about relationships. It was about understanding what matters most to you and being willing to stand on your beliefs even when other people disagree. But one thing is clear: Katt Williams wasn't pretending to be unbothered. Whether people agree with him or not, he said exactly how he felt. And in today's world, that's becoming more rare by the day. And with that being said, let me know your thoughts below. Was Katt keeping it real, or was he taking the situation too far?